Good morning, everybody. It is the Monday after Easter, and I hope that you all had a great weekend. I am so thankful to hear that all of you were safe from the weather. I know that maybe some of you have had some trees down or a little bit of damage, but for the most part, it sounds like everybody made it through safely, and that just makes me feel better about you because I just love you and miss you so much. I'm going to start reading chapter 1 of Bud Not Buddy, and my plan is to just record videos whenever I have time during the week, and I will just send out the videos to you just as soon as I finish reading a chapter. That way we can get through the 19 chapters that are in Bud Not Buddy, and you can listen to these just whenever you have time. All right. Fair warning, remember that Miss Hall is a human, and so I may mess up on the words, I have during class. So I may have to go back and just kind of make it make sense to me. So this is going to be just like we do during class while you're eating your snack or while you're working on something that you haven't finished and things like that. So I hope you enjoy this as much as I'm looking forward to reading with you guys. Chapter 1. Here we go again. We were all standing in line waiting for breakfast when one of the caseworkers came in and tapped down the line. Uh-oh. This meant bad news. Either they'd found a foster home for somebody or somebody was about to get paddled. All the kids watched the woman as they moved along the line. Her high-heeled shoes sounded like firecrackers going off on the wooden floor. Shoot! She stopped at me and said, "Are you Buddy Caldwell?" I said, "It's Bud, not Buddy, ma'am." She put her hand on my shoulder and she took me out of line. Then she pulled Jerry, one of the other little boys, over. "Aren't you Jerry Clark?" she nodded. He said yes. "Boys, good news. Now that the school year has ended, you both have been accepted in a new temporary home starting this afternoon." Jerry asked the same thing I was thinking. "Together?" She said, "Why, no, Jerry. You'll be in a family with 3 little girls." Jerry looked like he had just found out they were going to dip him in a pot of boiling milk. "And Bud," she looked at some papers she was holding. "Oh, yes, the Amoses. You'll live with Mr. and Mrs. Amos and their son, who's 12 years old. But that makes him just 2 years older than you, doesn't it, Bud?" "Yes, ma'am." She said, "I'm sure you'll both be very happy." Me and Jerry looked at each other. The woman said, Now, boys, no need to look so glum. I know you don't understand what it means, but there's a depression going on all over this country. People can't find jobs, and these are very, very difficult times for everybody. We've been lucky enough to have 2 wonderful families who've opened their doors for you. I think it's best that we show our new foster families that we are very..." She dragged out the word very, waiting for us to finish her sentence for her. Jerry said, "cheerful, helpful, and grateful." I moved my lips and mumbled. She smiled and said, "Unfortunately, you won't have time for breakfast. I'll have a couple of pieces of fruit put in a bag. In the meantime, go to the sleep room, strip your beds, and gather all of your things." Here we go again. I felt like I was walking in my sleep, and I followed Jerry back to the room where all the boys' beds were jammed together. This was the 3rd foster home I was going to, and I'm used to packing up and leaving. But it still surprises me that there are always a few seconds right before they tell you you've got to go, when my nose gets all runny and my throat gets all choky and my eyes get all stingy. But the tears coming out don't happen to me anymore. I don't know when it first happened, but it seemed like my eyes don't cry no more. Jerry sat on his bed, and I could tell he was losing the fight not to cry. Tears were popping out of his eyes and slipping down onto his cheeks. I sat down next to him and said, "I know being in a house with 3 girls sounds terrible, Jerry, but it's a lot better than being with a boy who's a couple of years older than you. I'm the one who's going to have the problems. An older boy is going to want to fight." But those little girls are going to treat you real good. They're going to treat you like some kind of pet or something. Jerry said, "You really think so?" I said, "I'd trade you in a minute. The worst thing that's going to happen to you is that they're going to make you play house a lot. They'll probably make you the baby and they'll want to hug you and do this kind of junk to you." I tickled Jerry under his chin and said, "Gaga goo goo baby wavy." Jerry couldn't help but smile. I said, "You're going to be great." Jerry looked like he wasn't so scared anymore, so I went over to my bed and started getting ready. Even though it was me who was in a lot of trouble, I couldn't help but feel sorry for Jerry, not only because he was going to have to live around 3 girls, but also because 6 is a real rough age to be at. Most folks think you start being a real adult when you're 15 or 16, but that's not true. It starts when you're about 6. It's at 6 that grown folks don't think you're a cute little kid anymore. They talk to you and expect that you understand everything they mean. And you best understand too, if you aren't looking for some real trouble, because it's around 6 that grown folks stop giving you little swats and taps and jump clean to giving you slugs that knock you right down and have you seeing stars in the middle of the day. The first foster home I was in taught me that real quick. 6 is a bad time too, because that's when some real scary things start to happen to your body. It's around 6 that your teeth start coming loose in your mouth. You wake up one morning and it seems like your tongue is the first one to notice that something strange is going on. As soon as you get up there, it's pushing and rubbing up against one of your front teeth, and I'll be doggone if that tooth isn't the least bit wiggly. At first, you think it's kind of funny, but the tooth keeps getting looser and looser. And one day, in the middle of pushing the tooth back and forth and squinching your eyes shut, you pull it clean out. It is the scariest thing you can think of, because you lost control of your tongue at the same time, and no matter how hard you try to stop it, the hole in your mouth, you just can't leave alone. Your tongue keeps digging around in the spot that the tooth used to be. You tell some adult about what's happening, but all they do is say it's normal. You can't be too sure though, because it shakes you up a whole lot more than grown folks think it does. When perfectly good parts of your body commence to loosening up and falling off of you, unless you're as stupid as a lamppost, you've got to be wondering what's coming off next. Your arm? Your leg? Your neck? Every morning when you wake up, it seems like a lot of your parts aren't stuck on as good as they used to be. 6 is real tough. That's how old I was when I came to live here in the home. That's how old I was when Mama died. I folded the blankets and sheets and set them back on the mattress. Then I reached under the bed to get my suitcase. Most of the kids in the home kept their things in a paper or cloth sack, but not me. I have my own suitcase. I set it on the mattress and untied the twine that held it together. I did what I do every night before I go to sleep. I checked it to make sure everything was there. That way, the way there's more and more kids coming into the home every day, I had to make sure that no one ran off with any of my things. First, I pulled my blanket out and saw that everything was where it was supposed to be. At the bottom of my suitcase were the flyers. I took the blue flyer out and looked at it again. The paper was starting to wear from me looking at it so much, but I liked to check to see if there was anything I hadn't noticed before. It was like something was telling me there was a message for me on this flyer, but I didn't have the decoder ring to figure out what it was. Across the top of the flyer, written in big black letters, were the words, "Limited engagement." Then the little letters said, "Direct from an SRO engagement in New York City." Underneath that in big letters, again, it said Herman E. Calloway and the Dusky Devastators of the Depression. Those 6 exclamation points made it seem like this was the most important news anyone could think of. Seems like you're going to have to Seems like you're going to have to be really great to deserve all those exclamation points, all stacked up in a row like that. Next, the paper said, Masters of the New Jazz. Then in the middle of the flyer, was a blurry picture of a man I have a real good suspicion about. I've never met him, but I have a pretty good feeling this guy must be my father. In the picture, he's standing next to a giant fiddle that's taller than him. And it looks like it's real heavy because he's leaning up against it, trying to hold it up. He looks like he's been doing this for a long time, and he says he must be tired because has a droopy, dreamy look on his face. There are two men beside him, one playing drums and the other one blowing a horn. It wasn't hard to see what the guy who must be my father was like just by looking at his picture. You could tell he was real quiet, real friendly, and a real smart man. He had one of those kinds of faces. Underneath the picture, someone had written with a black fountain pen, "One night only, Flint, Michigan, at the luxurious 50 Grand on Saturday, June 16th, 1932. 9 until... ? I remember Mama bringing this flyer with her when she came home from working one day. I remember because she got very upset and put it on the supper table and kept looking at it and picking it up and putting it back down and moving it around, and I was only 6 then, and I couldn't understand why this one got her so upset. She kept 4 others that were a lot like it on her dressing table, but this one really got her jumpy. The only difference I could see between the blue one and the others was that the others didn't say anything about Flint on them. I remember this one too because it wasn't long after she brought it home that I knocked on Mama's bedroom door and then found her. I put the blue flyer back in the suitcase with the 4 older ones and put everything back in its place. I went over to the big chest of drawers and I took my other sets of clothes out and put them in the suitcase too. I tied the twine around my bag and then went and sat on Jerry's bed with him. Jerry must have been thinking just as hard as I was, because neither one of us had said nothing. We just sat close enough so that our shoulders were touching. Here we go again. And that's chapter 1. I love you all and I miss you all, and stay tuned for chapter 2 coming very soon. Bye.